I think the American people are going to rally around the president.
Let a 6-year-old, let a 12-year-old make a life-changing decision for themselves.
To announce the appointment of David Weiss as a special counsel.
One of Biden's biggest touting bus programs went under, but who made out with a lot of money? Find out soon. Also, Hunter Biden has a new special counsel appointment by the DOJ/Merrick Garland. I wonder who it is. And also, Neyo apologizes for the apology over the apology of his apology and apology, which is interesting regarding the whole trans cancellation thing. All that and more coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Jobob. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
2, 1.
Here we go!
That might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually her name, Jobob.
Live back from the dingy bunker, completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in. On today, it is Monday, August 14th, the year of our Lord 2023. Had a great week off with a brand new baby girl. Was super excited. Wife delivered on Monday night of last week, and took the last week and had a really, really great time at home with her and the brand new baby. Maybe I'll show some pictures of that later. But that's where we've been the last week. But we're back because the news doesn't stop, and the world doesn't stop spinning, and politics doesn't stop happening. To jump right on into things as immediately as possible, we have this crazy story. I like this little chyron here. Dog catcher appoints dog. So I just want to recap the whole Hunter Biden scenario. You're probably hip to the news that dropped on Friday, but again, it was a Friday. Was it technically the afternoon? I think it was. Friday afternoon news dumps, which is just hilarious when it comes from the administration and any departments and agencies within the administration when, hey, there's a news story that we don't really want to pick up a ton of traction, so let's just go ahead and put that out on Friday afternoon when the entire country and the entire news media decides to go home. So regardless, this is when this came out. Hunter Biden has been appointed a special counsel to look into the misgivings and misdeeds of the president's biggest problem, his son. Now, just quickly, we've talked extensively about the fact that Hunter's business partner / best friend has now testified, saying that Joe Biden was on the phone with various business partners of Hunter Biden, which of course is causing the conservative side of the aisle to say, hey, this is an issue. If the president is selling access via his son, even if it looks as bad as it does, that would be a major problem. We'll get into some of the reaction to how Democrats are saying he needs to be impeached, or reaction to Republicans wanting an impeachment, and what Democrats are saying is honestly kind of hilarious. But to kind of lay this out, remember, Hunter Biden had a plea deal. A lot of us, at the time the plea deal was announced, said, this is it. We're not charging the fact that Hunter Biden had a felony gun possession, lying on a form, same thing. And he's having to plead guilty to being late paying his taxes. Also, where did that money come from? This, that, and the other thing. Bottom line is, broad strokes, without getting into the nitty-gritty detail, the plea deal was a weird sweetheart deal that made everybody question, hey, this guy's dad is the president of the United States, and he appoints the directors of the DOJ, and he kind of controls all of that. And the DOJ, the Department of Justice, is deciding not to charge the president's son with any of the more serious crimes. They're just letting him plead out to something not that serious, being late on your taxes. Yeah, the entire conservative world, but also just the media that's paying attention said, yeah, that's a little ridiculous. Fast forward 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, it's finally put in front of a judge, and the judge is reading through it, and the judge says, what the heck is this? There's this whole clause in here that says if Hunter pleads guilty to being late on his taxes, the DOJ is going to promise to no longer prosecute any other of the things that Hunter Biden may have done, may continue to do, has profited from? None of that is going to be looked into by the DOJ? No, absolutely not. If you remember that hearing, what was it, 2 weeks ago now, Hunter walked into the courtroom for what he thought was going to be a 15-minute we're going to get this signed and we'll be done. And the judge ended up questioning them for 3 hours, saying, hey, how the heck, who's prosecuting this? Who from the DOJ came to this conclusion that Hunter Biden, if he pleads guilty to paying his taxes late, will be absolved of all of the other crimes? Because that's what it was. The judge saw like a blanket, not. Why can't I think of the term? What am I trying to say? Help me out. Why I'm having dad brain / lack of sleep. But he was going to skate on being prosecuted on everything else if he pled guilty to a misdemeanor tax charge, and the judge said absolutely not. Now, that of course brought criticism on the DOJ. Okay, who is in charge of this that put forward this plea deal? Then we had the 2 whistleblowers, a Republican and a Democrat, both saying, hey, this whole investigation here is bunk. And the people in charge of it are saying we can't charge Hunter Biden for certain things and this and that and the other thing. All that being said, the judge and the American people and conservative media, but again, I really say just people who are paying attention in total, we're all saying this looks really, really bad. The prosecution, the person advocating on behalf of the taxpayer, a guy named David Weiss, came to this sweetheart deal that a federal judge said absolutely freaking not. There was a deal brokered between Hunter's lawyers and this guy, David Weiss, who is under the control of Merrick Garland, who is under the control of Joe Biden, saying, we're gonna come to this sweetheart deal before the judge said absolutely not. Okay, fast forward to Friday. What happened Friday? Lots of Republicans were calling for a special counsel. Special counsel being completely separate from the DOJ. They get to do all of their work on their own and actually investigate Hunter Biden. So Republicans have been calling for that since, well, for a long time, but more loudly since the Hunter Biden plea deal fell apart. Finally, on Friday, Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, the head of the DOJ, came out and said, fine. We are putting forward a special counsel to look into the Hunter Biden situation. And everybody said, fantastic. The only problem is this. He then came out to say, well, the person that we're putting in charge of the special counsel is going to be none other than David Weiss. Wait, isn't that the guy who had the sweetheart deal in the first place and tried to get that whole leniency past the judge? Isn't that the same guy? Yes, it is. The same guy that gave Hunter Biden an unbelievable deal on behalf of you and I, the taxpayer, is now going to be the special counsel. Here's a brief 11 seconds of Merrick Garland announcing that to the country on Friday.
I'm here today to announce the appointment of David Weiss as a special counsel, consistent with the Department of Justice regulations governing such matters.
Yeah, that's about it. He came out and said, we're announcing a special counsel, and the guy in charge of that is the guy that tried to let Hunter skate on all of that stuff. Look, I'll just throw this out there. It is possible, in theory, it is possible that this guy, David Weiss, went to Merrick Garland and said, look, we tried to kind of make this stuff go away for the good of the country. I don't believe that, but just hypothetically saying that David Weiss could have said, look, we tried to make this stuff go away. It didn't work. Now we actually do have to look into it. And maybe this is being done all in good faith. The problem is trust in the DOJ and the administration as a whole has eroded substantially. And if you're going to try and regain that trust, Merrick, maybe don't appoint the same guy who was already ready and willing to cut a sweetheart deal with the president of the United States' son. Just FYI, too, Jonathan Turley, I believe Fox News commentator, was saying, hey, the special counsel doesn't have to come from within the DOJ. Like, that's not a thing that needs to happen. And what definitely doesn't need to happen is the same guy that was already investigating it and was ready to give a sweetheart deal to the president's son has to be appointed to the special counsel. Now, special counsels operate outside of the DOJ, not necessarily outside of their jurisdiction, but they don't have any input into special counsels. That's why special counsels are effectively a good thing, I guess. They're supposed to be fair arbiters. But if everything looks political and it looks as though the president is trying to get his son out of hot water, and then you add into that another variable that continues the bad look of corruption within the DOJ, it's not a great sign. This is a commentary. This is just another quick clip before we move on that I thought was just freaking fascinating. How people say this sort of stuff with a serious face is beyond me. Here's like 11 seconds from an MSNBC broadcast last week regarding, or over the weekend, regarding Hunter Biden and how the American people will respond to this. Check it out.
No, the American people are going to rally around Joe Biden. As soon as they start impeaching him with no evidence, just based on innuendos and this Hunter stuff, I think the American people are going to rally around the president.
Yeah, that's basically it. That I can't imagine how somebody could think that with no evidence whatsoever. Look, you're not actually going to find hard evidence of Joe Biden saying, I will do this for this amount of money. Everybody knows that that's not going to happen. You're never going to find, he's smart. He's not stupid. Him and Hunter were not stupid when colluding with Ukrainian oligarchs. So they're not going to find we did this exactly for this. It's an optics thing, how it all looks. And first things first, Joe Biden has now been caught. This is objectively speaking, not even from a conservative standpoint. Joe Biden has been caught lying about whether or not he talked to Hunter Biden about his business or anything. He's shifted the goalposts to saying he's never talked about Hunter Biden's business to he was never involved with Hunter Biden's businesses, which is, of course, intentional and strategic on behalf of the White House and the administration. And so regardless of whether or not there is an email that said, well, there is so much overwhelming circumstantial evidence here that regardless of the hard line, quote unquote, quid pro quo, which is, remember what Trump got impeached for, gosh dang it, there's so many layers to this. I mentioned this like last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever we were talking about this, but isn't it interesting that Donald Trump got impeached for looking into something that apparently was happening at the time? The Ukrainian phone call with Zelensky. Remember, that was his first impeachment. Turns out all of the things that he thought might have been going on were actually going on. But anyways, all that being said is, regardless of the hard line, I will do this for this amount of money, the circumstantial evidence around Joe Biden and Hunter Biden colluding with Ukrainian oligarchs and Chinese financiers to make more money does not look good. And I know that's going to be the defense on the lefty side of the aisle of, well, there's no actual tangible thing of I will do this for this. But the payments to Hunter went on for way, way, way longer than they would have if nothing was happening. So in other words, while we will never find a specific quote unquote quid pro quo from Joe Biden to I don't know, Chinese business people or Ukrainian oil companies, they continued to make payments for a very long time. So either they were screwing the American people, the Biden corruption crime family, they were either screwing the American people or they were screwing all of the people that were bribing them. So neither option is great for the Bidens. Anyways, speaking of corruption, I thought this was a fascinating story that went underreported. Now, maybe it got huge news when it happened last week because I wasn't entirely paying attention to the news last week, but I don't think it got the attention that it probably deserved. Have you heard of the bus company Proterra? Proterra is a company that was, well, a Silicon Valley-based, San Francisco-based company that was looking to upend the public transportation world by selling buses, electric vehicle buses, to cities. Now, what you see here is a picture of a Proterra bus. According to Twitter, I didn't actually verify this is actually it, but I'm pretty sure this is. According to Twitter, this is a Proterra bus that caught on fire in Philadelphia. The electric bus company that has now gone bankrupt. Now, here's what is interesting about this. This is from the Washington Free Beacon. President Biden promoted this company. Its top executive landed a spot at the White House board, and Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm held hundreds of thousands of shares in it. This bus company, Proterra, went bankrupt, filed for bankruptcy on Monday. But regardless, or aside from all of these, so in 2022, Joe Biden promoted this company and has said multiple times that this company is a great company and we should be forwarding advancements to electric buses. But that wasn't enough to save Proterra, the electric vehicle maker, whose buses routinely failed to stay on the road from declaring bankruptcy. Proterra cited a bunch of different market and macroeconomic headwinds and filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The declaration marks a stunning downfall for Biden's favorite green energy company. Joe Biden took part in a virtual tour of the Proterra facility in April 2021 to promote his $1.9 trillion infrastructure plan, which included billions to boost the electric bus industry. In other words, in part, I think of his $1.9 trillion infrastructure plan, about $10 billion was to go towards promoting electric buses and how we can get more electric transportation in the public world. Now, that $10 billion that was a part of the quote-unquote infrastructure plan is allocated by somebody. Who decides where that money goes? Well, Jennifer Granholm, the Energy Secretary, or the Secretary of the Department of Energy, is one of those people that makes the decision about where that money goes. Now, while it would seem like a huge conflict of interest, Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm held 240,000 shares to start her tenure, prompting many ethics concerns, according to the Washington Free Beacon. So the Secretary of Department of Energy, the lady in charge of allocating, $10 billion of government investment into electric vehicle companies, $10 billion into electric bus companies specifically, held 240,000 shares of one of the biggest, most prominent Biden-touted electric bus companies. Interesting. Now, when the company filed for bankruptcy, shares obviously took a huge hit on Monday. Proterra stock shares tumbled more than 60% in after-hours trading on Monday. However, Jennifer Granholm, who had 240,000 shares of the company, won't have to worry about losing her investment. Granholm, who served on Proterra's board of directors, sold her shares for $1.6 million in May of 2021, weeks after Biden publicly touted the company. Granholm's shares would have been valued at about $340,000 based on Proterra's current share price. In other words, the lady at the top of the Energy Department, appointed by Joe Biden, who stood behind Joe Biden as he touted this company, said, oh, shoot, even though billions of taxpayer dollars are getting funneled towards companies like this, I'm going to go ahead and get out. Sold all of her shares, made $1.6 million rather than sticking with the company that she believes in, as her share prices would have tumbled to about $340,000. So she herself saved herself $1.3 million by getting out of the company that she believed in so fervently. How do you like that for corruption? There's another hilarious Bernie Sanders story that we might get to later on, but I thought this was kind of funny. Jennifer Granholm saying, I made this much money off of stoking the flames of quote-unquote climate change and green energy. And getting out of it. There's Elon Musk had a thing about this. He was angrily tweeting at Bill Gates, who another person claims to be green energy, electric vehicles, all this sort of stuff, and yet has a massive short position on Tesla stock. In other words, Bill Gates, who says, I love green energy, I love clean electric vehicles, is betting on Tesla to lose value. Tesla, the only company that has made even a dent in the electric car industry. I think like 80% of new cars are not only gas vehicles, but like SUVs and trucks, which is what the American people want. And all that being said, this whole push towards electric vehicles is really just making government officials in public service wealthier than their wildest dreams. Annette says corruption all over Biden and his appointments. Yeah. We'll get to that Bernie Sanders story tomorrow because I think it's also kind of interesting just from a corruption standpoint, especially with him being an avowed socialist. I want to get to this before we hop off and head out. This I thought was a fascinating development over the last week. Holy cow, why am I not good at changing these chyrons? This is Neyo. Neyo, musician, early 2000s, fantastic singer, R&B artist. Neyo said some things that upset the LGBTQIA2+ whatever community regarding kids and transitioning kids. I want to play you that clip. Then I'll tell you about what happened post that clip. And then post that clip was also a fascinating turn of events. Watch this and we will discuss on the other side.
Old boy decide to eat candy all day, he's going to do that.
Exactly.
Like, when did it become a good idea to let a 5-year-old, let a 6-year-old, let a 12-year-old make a life-changing decision for themselves?
Right.
When did that happen?
Right.
Like, I don't understand that. I don't get that.
And to medicate these young kids that are 5, 6, growing up and knowing that it affects their brain, it affects their organs, it makes them sick, but they're not allowed to do drugs, they're not allowed to do alcohol.
Right.
But we can medicate them up.
He can't drive a car yet, but he can decide his sex.
Yeah, so that's Neyo. Shoot, let me get off of this bad chyron because I don't know, forget to change them sometimes. I'm in a hurry because I'm always late. So that was that. Neyo went to go say more things about that, but that was the general premise. He says, look, you can't let kids make life-altering decisions. We don't let them choose what they want to eat, let alone decide whether or not they want to be a different gender and alter their life accordingly. Now, he made those comments and was hit with backlash from the lefty side of the aisle, so much so that he then tweeted this. After much reflection, I'd like to express my deepest apologies to anyone that I may have hurt with my comments on parenting and gender identity. I've always been an advocate for love and inclusivity with the LGBTQI plus community, so I understand how my comments may have been interpreted as insensitive or offensive. Goes on, yada, yada, yada. Big apology that he tweeted out after this video surfaced. Now, here is the fun and interesting thing. In the entertainment world, even in the commentary world, I think I consider myself in the entertainment / commentary world. A lot of people have publicists. A lot of people have professionals who speak on their behalf. So when this video came out, obviously Neyo's publicists / publicity team / management team all thought, oh no, we're going to get canceled by the lefties. Who, by the way, who goes to see Neyo? Parents at this point. Neyo was huge back when I was like in high school / a teenager, and all of the people my age now are parents. You think that the people that are going to see Neyo are going to be upset with this sort of commentary? Absolutely not. So I think huge miscalculation by the publicist issuing that apology. But where the thing gets interesting that takes a turn is then after that apology, Neyo came on himself to put a video out and say, screw that apology, that was my publicist, that wasn't me, and put out a video that sounded something like this. Check
From
this
the horse's
out.
mouth, not the publicist's computer. So check this out. Somebody asked my opinion on this matter, and this is how I feel. I will never be okay with allowing a child to make a decision that detrimental to their life. I will never be okay with that. I don't care. I definitely plan to educate myself a little bit more on this matter. However, I doubt that there's any book anywhere or any opinion that somebody's going to tell me that's going to make me okay with letting a child make a decision like that. That's just period, point blank, and that's how I feel. If I get canceled for this, then you know what? Maybe this is a world where they don't need a Neyo no more, all right? And I got no problem with that. I'm a hustler, all right? I'll figure it out. I got kids to raise, and I'm going to do that regardless. So with that being said, y'all have a good day. I love everybody.
So, isn't that fascinating? Like, we often get caught up in this whole idea of like people bending to the woke mob, but in a lot of cases, I think it's a lot of a PR standpoint. Neyo, fortunately, is in a position where he has made a ton of money over his career. I'm hoping he managed that money well, but he's also still on tour. He's still doing shows. He's still selling out, arenas even. But the guy says something that he believes. The team around him decides they need to apologize for that thing, and he goes back and says the opposite. Ryan says, I hope he fired them. I would imagine he probably did. But look at this. This is what I thought too. Amy says this, Neyo is a coward, which is what I also thought after the publicist put out that press release. But then the fact that he went back and said, no, that's my PR team. Those are those guys who are constantly concerned about the wokest of the woke, even though those are not the people that are going to Neyo concerts, I guarantee you. He says the PR team, the PR people, the management, the publicists, they all care about that. I don't care about that. I care about telling people what I think, and to use the cliche term, speaking the truth. I thought that was hilarious. Keith says good for him, along with a bunch of other comments that are kind of in that same line. But the bottom line is fascinating twists and turns of this particular story, but so many stories like it. Of somebody says something that is objectively true, in my opinion. Then they try to backtrack it, or their publicist or their PR firm tries to backtrack it, and they say, no. I want that there. I think that. Interestingly enough, that tweet, the apology tweet, is still up. He hasn't taken it down. I don't even know if he even runs his Twitter or does any of his social media. But I don't know. I thought that was great. Him coming back and saying, no, I actually think this. Whew. But anyways, that'll do it for us today. Appreciate you sticking around, tuning in. For all of you who sent messages, comments, well wishes for myself, my wife, and our brand new baby daughter, I really, really appreciate that. We're having a great time, even with the lack of sleep. I think we both are having a it's a blast time. We're really excited. We're having a lot of fun. So for all of you who have sent along well wishes, really appreciate that. Hopefully we'll be back to these on a more routine schedule. Again, last week kind of didn't really do much, but and this week going to be kind of well, we'll see what happens depending on how baby's doing. But hoping to get back to the swing of things here pretty quickly. If you haven't already, give me a follow on any of your social media accounts. Just type in JOBOB. You'll be able to find me pretty much anywhere. Social media, any of the platforms, you can find me there. Also, tickets for the comedy tours, which I should create a little Chiron for it, are going quickly. Tickets for the Fallbrook dates, which is northern San Diego area, and the Van Buren / Fort Smith, Arkansas dates are on sale. They're going quicker than I thought. Tickets keep selling specifically for the Fallbrook dates. I believe the Tulsa, Oklahoma event ticket dates go on sale fairly soon. I should double check that, but go to my website or freedomcomedyevents.com and you can find any of the places that will be on the Star Spangled Banter comedy tour coming up. And you can find all that on my social media accounts. So that's that. We will see you tomorrow, same time, same place, probably, assuming the baby continues to do okay. See you then. God bless America.